to the dementia-friendly Prince George's County, Maryland, Northern Sector webinar series for caregivers. Today's topic is Caregiving Like You're on a Cruise, sponsored by Prince George's County Government and the Department of Family Services.
Erin, so nice to be with all of you this evening. Tonight, our presentation is a little bit different than maybe what you're used to. I'm going to start us off with this quote here. You know you're due for a vacation when you start looking like your license photo. Has anyone been there before? You're probably thinking, like, I'm there right now, right? It's been a rough 6 months. Full of curveballs, full of uncertainty, full of changes. And I don't know about you, but I feel like my standards have sort of lowered with my appearance most days. You know you're due for a vacation when you start looking like your license photo. Well, 7 months ago, before this pandemic, I was in a very different place. I wasn't in my home in Northern Virginia like I would normally be. My home was temporarily elsewhere. For 9 days, I was aboard this ship, the Grandeur of the Seas. And I have a few facts I want to share with you about the Grandeur of the Seas. The Grandeur of the Seas holds up to 2,440 guest passengers. It's 916 feet long. It has 12 decks, 9 passenger elevators, 7 dining establishments, 6 whirlpools, an indoor pool, outdoor pool, piano bar, dance club, climbing wall, outdoor movie screen, casino, theater, even a Starbucks. Everything was on this ship. And for a change, I wasn't traveling with my family. I didn't have my spouse, I didn't have my kids with me. I was not on a girls' trip. I was with a really fantastic group of 20 outstanding adults. And here they are. I was on this ship because I was part of Insight's Caregiver cruise. So for the last 6 years, Insight, which is located in Northern Virginia, has offered this Caregiver cruise to families so that they can vacation together, knowing that for the person living with dementia and that care partner, traveling becomes really challenging. And the Caregiver Cruise offered this kind of extra layer of support. So in our group, it was 20 individuals, 7 people living with dementia, 10 of their family members, and 2 of my colleagues. And we were in it together, right? We were ready to support each other, ready to have a good time. And as one of the staff members, one of my roles was to make sure everything went smoothly, right? That we had a plan, that all of the details were taken care of. I've been on 3 caregiver cruises so far. I've been northeast to New England and Canada. I've been to Bermuda, and this past year was on a southeast coast cruise. So I'm going to share a few of my learnings from the Caregiver Cruise and sort of weave them more broadly into the idea of caregiving. You know, take some of the tips from cruising and be able to apply them more generally to those of us, everyone right now who is not vacationing, who is certainly not on a cruise. But how can we just take a few pieces from that to learn? So our 5 tips. So the first tip this evening, aye, Captain. Who is the captain of this boat? Unfortunately, it's not Captain Meryl Steubing from the Love Boat. Guess who it is? It's you, right? You are now the captain of this boat. You and your loved one who live with dementia. You are the one who's really, like, the buck stops with you. You are the final say. Your loved one's values and preferences and opinions are all really important, but who makes the final call? That has now shifted to you. And that can feel really hard when you've been able to share responsibilities in the past. And now it feels like everything is on your shoulders. when your relationship has changed, and all of those feelings that you're experiencing around that. So if we think about the caregiver cruise, were there times when the passengers on the ship maybe thought, it really would have been nicer to spend a few more hours in Bermuda? Or I wonder why the ship is going so slow in this section? Or do we really need to do this muster drill anyway? But the captain makes the final call. The captain decides what is best for the entire ship, the captain, the crew, and the passengers. The captain really isn't up in the bridge very often. The bridge is, sort of where they're steering, where they're driving the boat. The captain's only up in the bridge when they're pulling in or out of port, or when they're on, rough waters, when there's something kind of dicey going on. The captain is actually more like the CEO of the ship. The captain is in charge of everything, all of the leadership on the ship, the guest experience, the well-being of the crew, the safety of the ship, and the comfort for everyone that's on board. So on the Grandeur of the Seas, the captain shared, that this is a very different role, compared to being someone who's really just in charge of guiding the ship where it needs to go. The captain is in charge of everything. And pivoting into this role really isn't easy. And I imagine as a caregiver, you don't have the training, the preparation that the captain of a cruise ship would have. I don't know how much training the captain needs on a cruise ship, how many years of experience they must have, how many hours, what licenses. But I'm pretty sure as a caregiver, you probably are not nearly as prepared for this role as the captain would be on the ship. And that's unfortunate, right? How many of us are going to eventually be in a caregiving role? I mean, it's pretty likely that we will. If we're not the one receiving care, we're probably providing care to another person in our future, but probably far less prepared than we'd really like to be. So tip number 2, it takes a crew. No one can do this alone. No one person could run that entire cruise ship. No one person can provide all of the care, all of the support, everything that's needed to care for your loved one. No one can do this alone. It may feel like at times, like I've got this under control, and that's great to pat yourself on the back, to feel really confident, to feel capable, especially early on in the disease process. You may feel, we've got this. It's not always easy, but I've got a handle on it. But as things change, as the responsibilities increase, you're going to find that you need a team. You need a whole crew, and each person needs to know what their role is. What's their job? So on the cruise ship, of course, you had your dining staff, and you had your cabin crew, and you had your entertainment staff, and you had, I'm sure, all the people who worked, behind the scenes in the ship, in the engine room, up in the bridge, and elsewhere. And those individuals were trained for their role, right? They go to some kind of a boot camp for working on this ship before they actually get on the ship. Were you trained to be a doctor, a nurse, a pharmacist, physical therapist, occupational therapist, social worker, activity director, housekeeper, maintenance person, transportation professional, right? Secretary, all of these roles that you are now taking on? Probably not. But there are others here to help you. There are others who can join your crew, who can become part of your team. With you and your loved one at the center of this team, you might think about, who are those close family members or close friends that are part of our team? Maybe our children, maybe our siblings, maybe our best friends. And who are those medical professionals that might be part of our team? The doctor, the case manager, the therapists, others. And then what other kinds of services might be available to us? Maybe that includes your faith organization, a community service program of some type, your area agency on aging services. There are lots of services out there that we don't always realize exist until we really start to look into them. So once we develop our team, again, everyone needs to know what their role is on the team and accept that role and be prepared for that role. So your doctor, your nurse, your therapist, your social worker, they're all prepared for their roles, right? They are trained, they have experience. But I'm really thinking about your family members and your friends, and are they prepared for the role that you're expecting them to take on, or even that they may want to take on, but do they really have the preparation that they need? The education, the information. As that primary care partner, one of your main responsibilities is communicating well with your team, making sure that everyone is on the same page, that everyone knows what the expectation is. You know, that no one is recreating the wheel. You may have multiple caregivers in the picture. Yourself, maybe other family members, maybe professional caregivers. And are we all really on the same page, going in the same direction? You may find that there are other services that you might be able to tap into that could become part of your team. You may find that joining a support group is a great asset to your team, to have a selection of people who are experiencing a lot of the same things as you. I'm sure if the captain of the ship had a question, there's some place, somebody else that he could talk to, right? Maybe he's got a buddy who's a captain on another ship, right? He's got somebody to go to. A support group is a great way to connect with other caregivers, to learn from them, to hear their experiences, to feel a little bit less surprised if some of those things happen in the future with you or with your loved one, to feel less alone, especially at a time right now during this, basically isolation for most people, that I have that ability to connect with others who really get what I'm going through. That I'm not making these things up, that I'm not, um, that I'm doing the best that I can do. And it's one foot in front of the other, one day at a time. And having people who really, truly get that. I'm reminded of the cruise ship and the fact that there were 760 international staff members on board. So remember I said there were a little over 2,400 guests at max capacity, so probably a few less than that most times. And 760 staff to support all of those guests. And one of the really unique things I didn't realize on my very first caregiver cruise, so if you've been on a cruise, the first day when you get on board, and it takes many hours for everyone to get on board, and then there's an announcement, there's a muster drill. So everyone has to go out on the deck and all the crew come out, and basically you learn what to do if there were an emergency, where the lifeboats are and the life vests and all of those kinds of things. And so the staff were there in each section giving their instructions. And then later on throughout the cruise, I would see those same staff members in very different roles. I ended up seeing one of the main activity people who had been in charge of my section in the muster drill, right? And so there are times when as a crew, they had to pivot. They had to pick up a different role, right? The situation warranted something a bit different. And I especially then think about our family members and friends who are helping us with caregiving, and how there are certainly times when we have to make a change. And sometimes we're prepared for that. We know it's coming. And sometimes we're not. So that communication as a team is really, really critical. So where's our team going? That brings us to our third tip. Chart your course. Where am I going? Where are we going? What's coming up ahead? And how will we navigate the things that are coming ahead? How will we navigate keeping safety and comfort in mind for the entire ship, not only for the passengers, but also for the crew, also for the captain, not only for your loved one, but also for other family members, also for you if you're that primary care partner. What's coming and how are we going to navigate this for the safety and comfort of everyone on the ship? So this starts with learning about the disease, learning about what your loved one is experiencing. There are many forms of dementia. They all look a little bit different. You know, the pathology, what's going on in the brain varies from one type of dementia to another. So just briefly thinking about Alzheimer's disease, you know, that early warning sign, that most prominent symptom, you may find to be memory loss, especially short-term memory loss. And as the disease progresses, remember, we're also thinking ahead, what's coming, how do we navigate? As the disease progresses, it's no longer just short-term memory loss. Memories are being lost kind of further and further back in that person's life. And it doesn't only stay with memory loss. There's also behavior change, communication changes, thinking abilities changing, and really eventually that person's ability to take care of oneself, to complete all of their activities of daily living independently, that changes too. Not overnight, but over the course of many, many years. And if we think about other forms of dementia, you know, maybe with Lewy body dementia, there's different kinds of symptoms, different early warning signs. With Lewy body dementia, we might think a little bit more about fluctuation in cognition. We might think about changes in executive functioning. We may think about hallucinations being fairly common, changes in sleep patterns, some Parkinsonian symptoms, maybe balance issues, shuffling feet with walking, swallowing changes, those sorts of things. And as that disease progresses, you know, the symptoms are going to change over time. Eventually, memory will also become affected, you know, the ability to care for oneself. This is all changing too. When we think about FTD, it's kind of a whole different set of early signs, you know, and kind of primary symptoms in the beginning. And there are different types of FTD, but generally the two main kind of buckets are they are behavioral changes or language and communication changes. So with some of those kind of behavioral changes that might include, you know, that person really like losing their filter, saying and doing things that they would not normally be doing. Difficulty with impulse control, difficulty regulating emotion, appearing to others like that person lacks empathy. They really can't connect to how something they say or do makes somebody else feel. Or with more of those language types of FTD, this may include difficulty with understanding communication, not a hearing problem, but truly processing. It may be difficulty expressing myself, or it could be a combination of the two. And so there will be sort of these primary symptoms in the beginning, but over time, the whole brain is changing. And for that person, there will be some movement changes, there will be memory changes, there will be other things that occur over time. So how are we going to navigate this? How are we going to be as prepared as possible, have the information that we need, but also understand that no two people are the same? You may have had another family member in the past, like a parent or a grandparent who's lived with dementia. And you will probably find that how you recall that experience is very different than what your loved one that you care for now is experiencing. No two people are the same. So that makes the planning ahead a bit more challenging, right? We're doing our best to navigate, but there's no crystal ball. So when we're charting our course, we want to understand what resources are out there. At some point in the future, my loved one is going to need help in a variety of different areas. And who can I call on when that support is needed? I, as that primary care partner, can provide maybe a lot of support in different ways, but it's not realistic that one person can do everything 24/7, 365. So what resources are out there? Are there services? Are there programs? whether they're in person, whether they're virtual, they're telehealth, something in my own backyard, my own neighborhood that can help. And who do they help? It's not just for the person living with dementia. There are lots of services that may help your loved one, and they might include adult day programs, they might include in-home care, they might include therapy, they might include counseling, they might include assisted living or nursing home, lots of different things. But also, what programs and services are out there to support me as that primary caregiver? Maybe it's counseling, maybe it's a support group, maybe there are grants, maybe there are respite services available. There are lots of opportunities, but generally it starts with at least one phone call, right? Something has to get the ball rolling. We have to reach out and ask for some help. Sometimes we don't know what we don't know. So we have to get that ball rolling. We make a phone call, we start to share some of our concerns, our situation, our needs, and then you tend to find that there's a whole selection of services starts to unfold. Once you sort of enter this world, all of these different resources start to become more apparent to you. So we need to know what's available. And if we're going to chart our course, we want to know where we're going, how we're going to navigate. We need a plan, right? The captain of the cruise ship has a plan. They know when they're going to leave. They know how fast they're going to go. They know where they're going. They've got their maps. They've got their radios. They have a plan. And sometimes that plan has to change, but there's at least a plan. So everyone on the ship is looking to you for answers. Just like on that cruise ship, everyone's looking to the captain. You are the captain. Everyone on that team, including your loved one living with dementia, is looking to you to chart that course. So we want to have some really sensitive conversations with our loved one while we can have them. In the early stage of the disease, maybe shortly after a diagnosis has been made, we want to be able to talk openly with our loved ones about the future and to really understand what our loved ones are wanting, what they're hoping for, what their preferences are. It doesn't mean that I'm suggesting that we make any promises to our loved ones. So often we hear promises like I promised dad that I'd care for mom at home, or I promised my husband that I would be his only caregiver. And we promise those things with the best intentions. But again, there are changes happening in the future that sometimes are hard to predict, and no one person can do everything. It takes that whole crew. So have these sensitive conversations. I think you'll find that you'll feel better knowing that there is a plan, that you'll feel more confident, that you'll feel more secure, that at some point in the future, it's likely that you'll definitely have to make decisions for your loved one if you are that primary care partner, if you're the power of attorney. But it's pretty likely that there will be at least some point in the future when you're going to have to make kind of a quick decision, something you weren't expecting. Maybe your loved one falls and has an injury, is hospitalized, there's an illness, there's a sudden change in circumstances, maybe in your own health, and you may have to make a very quick decision. But when you have a plan, when you've talked about these things in advance, I think you're going to find that you feel a lot more confident in making that decision, a lot less grief and anxiety and worry over, you're still going to worry, am I doing the right thing or not? But if you know this is something that we've discussed, that the family is on board with, we know where we're going, it's going to make that a lot smoother when those rough waters do occur. So we're going to move now to tip 4. Don't rock the boat. If I had a beautiful singing voice, I'd sing for you. Don't rock the boat, but I don't. So I'll save you from that. Don't rock the boat. Go with the flow, right? Of course, one person is not going to rock a cruise ship, but just taking this idea of we don't want to challenge our loved ones. We don't want to argue with them. We don't want to correct. If your loved one is perfectly happy saying that they have, 5 children when they have 4, or that they're still going to work, or maybe that you forgot to give them lunch today, or whatever those things might be, rather than challenging, arguing, correcting, criticizing. We want to keep smooth waters, right? We want to just keep everything as calm as possible. So rather than correcting our loved ones, we have to go with the flow. We have to just kind of go along on their journey, join their reality, right? Things won't always go as expected in caregiving. You've probably experienced that at some point so far, and there's more of that to come, right? Again, no crystal ball. And you're not always going to be right. Even with the best intentions, even with, seeking information and resources, there may be times when you don't make the decision that you wish you would have when you look back. But you're doing the best that you can in the moment, right? Taking so many different factors into consideration. Even when you are right, in the eyes of your loved one, you may be wrong. They may have a very different perception of reality than you. They may believe they can drive when you know it's not safe, or when that person no longer even has a license or a car. They may think that you forgot to give them lunch today, and you know that you did, and they pushed it away. Even when your loved one thinks that you are doing something wrong, you know that you're the captain of this ship. You have to do what you believe is right for your loved one and for yourself. And there are times when we do step into that reality of our loved ones, but knowing that you still have like one foot in your reality, right? You have a plan, but we have to be the ones to adjust. We have to be the ones to be flexible. Our loved ones can't control what is happening in their brains. They would never wish this upon themselves. You would never wish it upon them. But if they can't change, they can't control what's going on in their brain, we have to be the ones to be nimble, to readjust, to go with the flow, to be flexible. Have a plan A and a plan B and a plan C, right? Things will not always go as expected, but we have to have lots of tools in our tool belt, right? We have to have some backup plans in place. I'm sure for the captain on the cruise ship, when they had to change the order of our ports of call and actually skip one entirely because of a tropical storm, he had a backup plan, right? He knew that going this direction was not looking good. This was not going to be in the best interest of this ship. So, change of plans. You do the same thing as a caregiver. Communication is so important when we think about not rocking the boat. Do I communicate effectively? Do I simplify the things that I say? Am I direct? Am I clear? Do I keep eye contact? Do I use nonverbal signals like gestures, facial expressions, tone of voice to support what I'm saying? Do I give one step at a time directions? And also important is engaging your loved one. Having some structure throughout the day that includes engagement, that includes activities, that includes things that are purposeful, that are meaningful, right? So that things can get going on that consistently even keel. There will be curveballs, but that generally we know what to expect and we can find some comfort in this routine. So think about how you might engage your loved one. Maybe it's you at home. What sorts of things does my loved one like to do? What size role can they take in that task? So for example, if my loved one loves to do puzzles, can they do this puzzle independently? What size puzzle? What sort of setup do I need to offer? What kind of assistance might I provide? How do I make that activity successful? So my loved one doesn't feel frustrated or feel like a failure. And also that it doesn't feel too easy, that it doesn't feel like, something that's meant for a child. We have to find ways to kind of navigate so that that activity is engaging and does feel purposeful and does feel successful and pleasurable. So that communication and engagement are really important pieces to get that boat going on that even keel. And then once things are going well, we don't rock the boat. And tip number 5, soak up every moment. If you were on a cruise, I hope you'd be focusing on all of the wonderful sensations around you. Maybe that's the sea breeze, the smell of that ocean water. Maybe it's the intimate moments, like a slow dance with your partner. Maybe it's a new experience, seeing joy in something new, watching the clouds go by, watching for, the changes in the way the water is moving, being open to new experiences, really soaking it up, looking for every wonderful moment that you can. There are so many difficult parts of caregiving, so many things that we grieve about the changes in our loved ones. But if we stay in that place, it's dragging us down. It's not doing our loved one any good. So, how can we refocus on that glass half full? What's going well? What did I do well? What can I pat myself on the back for? What moments did my loved one really enjoy today? Did I see that spark? Did I see that self, that person inside who I know and love? When did I see that person come out today? We really need to live in the moment together. And it's hard because you're caregiving. You've got like 1,000 balls in the air, right? You've got a very full agenda. You've got lots of things that need to be done for your loved one, for your household, for yourself. But how can we be mindful of really being in the moment together? Really experiencing something, taking our time. You might go outside for a walk with your loved one. And do we really stop to notice the way the sun feels on our skin, or the breeze, or the sounds of the birds chirping, right? Or the kids playing, or, you know, whatever is meaningful to your loved one and to you. Really being in the moment together, not being 10 steps ahead, taking our time, soaking it up together, looking for every wonderful experience, being open to new experiences. You may think, oh, that would never work. My loved one would never enjoy that. But sometimes we just have to try, right? And we can actually be really surprised about the things that work that we never thought that they would. Join a support group. You're going to hear that over and over again, right? We all have to be open-minded. And for your loved one, that's hard. Anything that's new or different, anything that feels uncertain or unfamiliar, if we ask, do you want to do this? My loved one's going to say no, because they may not really understand what that is or what will be expected of them. But there may be ways that we can just offer instead of asking, do you want to? Can you come outside for a walk with me? I'd love for you to come for a walk with me today. I'd really enjoy your company, and really taking our time. And when you have these really wonderful moments together, tuck those away, to remember later on, to reflect on in those harder moments. Jot them down somewhere, maybe in a journal. Maybe you can, take a quick picture, you can photograph. You can share that story with a family member, with a friend, reminding yourself about the really wonderful moments that we have. A good day is really just made up of lots of good moments. And a good week is made up of lots of good days. And a good month is made up of lots of good weeks, right? There's not always going to be some really monumental thing that happens today that makes it a good day. Not every minute of the day is going to be great. But the more good moments we can create, the better the day goes. So feel that sense of awe with your loved one. Live with that grateful heart, and take a moment to acknowledge all of the wonderful things in your life, all of the blessings for you, for your loved one, and together. Take every chance you get in life, because some things only happen once. If you get an opportunity, take it. If you get a chance to take a break, a friend offers to come over and stay with your loved one for a few hours, or a family member offers to come and stay for the weekend so that you can have a break, take it. If you have the opportunity to have a phone call with a friend or to meet a neighbor for a walk, take it. If you learn about a service that would be really great for your loved one, maybe it's a memory cafe, maybe it's a virtual program, whatever that might be, take it. Try it out, because we never know when that window is going to close. Will this opportunity present itself again? Will we both be in the same sort of where we are now, physically, cognitively, emotionally in the future? We don't know. So if you see that there is an opportunity that presents itself, if there's a chance, go ahead and take it. And I wanted to share a little more about our organization. So not only do we have a caregiver cruise, I don't know what the future of the cruise is. There's not a cruise happening. We've already had our 2020 cruise. It's not happening in 2021, but we'll see. But Insight does way more than the caregiver cruise. In Northern Virginia, in Fairfax, we do have some in-person programs, such as our Adult Day Center, which is for those living with dementia, and our Reconnections Early Stage program. But during this pandemic, we've actually been able to shift almost all of our programming into a virtual format as well. And that includes virtual programming for those living with dementia. It includes the SHARE program, which is for those in the early stage and their care partners to plan for the future. Remember when I talked about having some of those really sensitive conversations together while your loved one has the capacity to do that? That's what the SHARE program is for. Education, classes, caregiving at a glance guide, workshops, support groups, consultations, memory screenings, memory cafes. Please feel free to get in touch with us if there's anything that we can help you with, whether you live near or far. If you have a question, if you're seeking a resource, I always invite you to contact us. So in a couple more slides, I'll share our contact information, but I did want to turn it back to Sharon to tell us a little bit more about Dementia Friendly America and Dementia Friendly Prince George's County Northern Sector.
Thanks so much, Lindsay. I really appreciate it. So again, my name is Sharon Johnson, and I work with a team that's located here in Prince George's County with Dementia Friendly America. And on the next couple of slides, I'm just going to talk about a couple of our resources that we have available to the community. We currently have our virtual support groups that take place via Zoom. So if you are interested or know someone who would benefit either with the caregiver support group or the social distancing support group, please feel free to reach out to us, and my contact information is at the bottom of this screen. We also send out a monthly email newsletter. If you're not currently on our email list, again, reach out and we'll be sure to get you on that list. And as I mentioned before, we have the Dementia Friendly America Northern Prince George's County YouTube channel, and you all will be receiving a link to that to watch this presentation as well as other presentations that we have recorded in the past. Okay, and on the next slide, it has just some general information and resources available to you all in the community. So if you have any questions or concerns or need additional resources, you have the Department of Aging, their telephone number and their website, and then you have some additional resources on this page. And you'll have the slides accessible to you as well to refer back to at a later time. Thanks so much, Lindsay. And I'll turn it back over to Lindsay. And before I do that, so she can share her information, I wanted to just thank everyone for joining in the presentation and for any questions that you have. Again, just a reminder to go ahead and post those questions in the chat section, and then I'll turn it back to Lindsay to close out.
Thank you so much, Sharon. I do want to remind everyone, if you have questions, yes, please enter them into the chat, into the questions box on the control panel. And again, if you have any questions following this class this evening, feel free to get in touch with us at Insight Memory Care Center. My email address is there on the screen, and I would be very happy to be in touch with you and to provide some support or some guidance if that is something you're looking for. And do we have any questions, Sharon?
None listed. No questions.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I thank you
I
so
think we're
much for
good.
being here this evening.
Okay, thank you so much. Again, Lindsay, we thank you for offering the presentation. And again, thank you to all the attendees who have joined us for the night. We have a couple of comments just saying thank you and that they enjoyed the presentation. All right, so I hope you all have a safe and a good evening. Take care. All right, bye-bye.